Jeffrey Magee graduated from Baker in 1986, and he graduated from here with a mass communications degree. He went on to get his master's from UMKC, and then he earned his doctorate from Columbia Southern University. Now, you can read his bio in your booklet. You can see how he started as a young age and started his own company, JMI. You can see how he just recently merged with Western CPE, that's a professional development company for certified public accountants. You can see how he's the executive vice president of that company, and he also is the editor-in-chief of Professional Performance magazine. So you can read all of that. What I want to emphasize, though, about Jeff is who he is as a person. This man has spoken all over the world. He's written a number of leadership books. He's met some of the most influential people in our country, actually the most influential people in the world. And yet, he has maintained those core Baker values. He's been so generous in his support of his fraternity here, Sigma Phi Epsilon. He's been recognized as a community volunteer. He shared his leadership knowledge with countless thousands, including me, and I am so grateful that he accepted our invitation to come today. He is high energy, so turn your ears on. I can tell you, you're going to enjoy him. Please welcome our speaker to the stage, Dr. Jeffrey Magee.
Good afternoon and welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to share ideas with you. Now, this is a little bit out of my norm to actually stand in front of a podium. Normally, when I have the opportunity to work with groups and talk to educators and leadership leaders, I'm usually kind of mic'd where I can walk around and move. So this feels really weird being nailed down and I can't move. So I guess that's safe for everyone else, but dangerous for me. Ideas. If you think about what you've just accomplished, and as an author of books, I look at today as a chapter. You've just finished one chapter in your life, your book. What is your next chapter going to be? If you think about tonight, tonight is really a transition phrase. What are you going to do next? I'm reminded that when I graduated 25 years ago, which is a very scary stat because I don't see myself as old enough to be saying 25 years ago, but I had no idea I'd be here 25 years later. When I graduated from Baker, I was in transit to Kansas City to be a business writer and journalist, which is what I did for a number of years. And then that chapter came to an end when I realized that there was more. What else did I want to do? So as I look back over those 25 years, Baker really has been, as Pat says, that foundation, both from an educational standpoint and a networking standpoint, that's allowed me to continue to move forward. So as you write the book of you, as you write your next chapter, always be mindful of what you do. You know, there's a phrase and a saying from Benjamin Franklin that talked about the person who empties his purse into his head will never be bankrupt. And that's really what this whole institution is about, knowledge and education. You may have trappings that belong to you, those may come and go, but what you have between your ears will never leave you. How do you capitalize upon education? So as I look at my business and playing in a billion-dollar industry and looking at education and working with school districts and superintendents and educators and doing leadership development from the Fortune 100 corporations to, in essence, West Point, the one common thread I've recognized between all those people in the magazine that I've had the honor of publishing for 16 years is that successful people and successful organizations all have same characteristics. And when you look at a successful person, you start to read their book. What have they done to get to where they are? There's certain things that come up as consistent characteristics. Think about all the hard work that you've gone through to get to where you are. And what I find fascinating in society today, and even for our guests here today, is that it takes a lot of hard work to get to where you are. And while there might seem to be lines of people that are envious for what you have, I've never seen the line yet that's envious of the work it took to get there. So that really is the hard chapter. What is it that you do that makes who you are? Performance Magazine has given me phenomenal opportunities to meet with the presidents of our United States. The last 3 presidents have written for me, to athletes, to musicians, to celebrities, to business leaders. And I shared the formula earlier today, and I'll share it again. Whether you look at what your interests are, any industry you're in now, or where your career may take you, if I were to give you one formula to look at tonight, the formula would be this: IQ plus EQ equals PQ. And whenever someone's unemployed, I'm reminded of that formula. Being downsized 3 times in the last 30 years, each time I was downsized, it was that formula that led me to be gainfully employed quickly again. Now, at the time, I didn't know the formula. The formula is something I've tripped into by listening to people that are my age, younger than me, and older than me. And what this room represents today is the IQ. What do we do to gain the knowledge, the practicum, the how-tos, the IQ? But that IQ is merged with, in his fellow educators, really the EQ, creating those environments conducive for people to want to learn, creating those environments conducive for people to want to be better than who they are. So it's the soft skills, the HR, the emotion, the intuition, the gut instinct, the EQ. But if you have the IQ and you merge it with the EQ, that takes you to PQ, which is the performance quotient. And the one thing that's sadly lacking in America today, we could say the world today, is that there's not a lot of people performing. Think about all the people you know that can talk a good game. They have every answer in the world, but very few people step to the plate. You all have stepped to the plate, and that is reflective of what we're here today to talk about. So last year, CNN, Gallup organization, on my magazine, we decided, let's take this belief system I have out to the road and see if there's any validity in it. So we surveyed thousands of American businesses, and you can go Google this, you can Yahoo search this. It came out in February in USA Today. But what we found was, of thousands of people that we interviewed, 2 alarming statistics came up. And these numbers are important as educators. These numbers are important for leadership, the group of you that are graduating with that degree, is that 56% of Americans responded saying they're disengaged in the workplace. We have created an environment by which today it's more conducive to not be engaged than it is to just go through the motions. So if you're not getting the 56% when you go home tonight or this weekend or next week, when you're a customer somewhere, think of these numbers. Have you ever been a customer somewhere where you would think the person taking care of you is at 56%? They're disengaged. They're merely going through the motions. That can't be us when we leave here. That's not what Baker's known for. But more alarming than the 56% is the next statistic. 15% of the people responded saying they're actively disengaged. That means we actually now have a group of people in our world, maybe in your business, in your schools. 15% of people come to work every day looking for ways to get out of work. Think if you've ever been a customer and you go somewhere and you feel like you're going out of your way to give them your money. So how do you look at things? So when I was a student here, I had some great mentors. They were alumni of Baker University, and they took me out to eat at a restaurant. There was a brand new restaurant in Kansas City called Casey Masterpiece. I don't even know if they're on the plaza anymore, but that was a cutting-edge restaurant at the time, to date this story for some of you. And we went there, we sat down, and the lady of this couple, she took out a stack of $1 bills and put them on the table. Now, when the waiter came up to take care of us, he thought that was a tip left over from the other table, from the other people, and he asked, was that left there? And she said, as she gently put her hand on the stack of $1 bills, no, this is your tip. Let's see what's left over when we're done. Now, initially, I was thinking, what an itch. Change the word, it rhymes with that. But that was a major life lesson, because what she was saying is that I'm here, and if I'm going to tip, which is paid for performance, let's see what the performance is. Imagine if all of us leaving here tonight would no longer get our paycheck unless we performed. What might be our attitude? How might we look at what we do? See, it's IQ plus EQ equals PQ. And I've made a life not on IQ. That's what we're here to celebrate today. But what I would caution you on is that when you leave here, it's more your EQ. How do you attitudinally and emotionally take the knowledge you've gained and share it with other people to help them to become better? So let me close. I've been asked to talk 5 minutes. My timing is right at 6 minutes. Pat, you said take as much time as I'd like. See, I hated being the person at the other end where you are and the person talks forever and you're thinking, please shut him up. So I'm hoping I haven't reached that. But let me close with a formula. This is how I have built my business for 30 years. It's called the beta factor, B-E-T-A. Now, when I was an undergraduate here at Baker, I was not really allowed to take science classes because evidently I stressed out the faculty. So that's why they said, take communication, it'll be easier for you, Jeff. So this is my attempt at math. But if you think of B-E-T-A, it really is what life is all about. We have spent, and you have spent time on letter B, and that's brains. If you study the most successful people out there, what you'll find is that the beta factor applies. As I've had the opportunity to meet people such as Lance Armstrong and Tiger Woods, and Andrea Young, the CEO of Avon, a Fortune 500 corporation, the longest standing female CEO of the Fortune 500, As I've had a chance to work with Anheuser-Busch and Harley-Davidson and Southwest Airlines and my clients, what I've recognized is every business and every individual, not only is it IQ plus EQ equals PQ, and they're at the PQ level, but they emulate the beta factor. So what is your brain power? Learning and knowledge is a never-ending process. When you stop learning, you stop living. So are we always pushing RB? And for all of us sitting here today in the penguin outfits and our family and friends, you can just think about letter B in terms of what do you do when you leave here? Have you read a nonfiction book in the last year? Do you subscribe to magazines that have more words than pictures? When you turn on the TV, is it something called education, or is it like, cage match wrestling? At which point erase everything else that you would have said yes to. But think about, what do we really do to feed our mind when we leave here? Because that's a part of what you've done here formally, but what do you do when you leave here? So beta factor, B is for your brains. E is in essence energy. What do you do to draw energy? What do you do to have energy? If you look at the most successful people around you, they have energy. T is talent. What talent do you have, and are you really using that talent in the right place? And if you think of the beta factor, A should be obvious because you can be brains, E energy, T talent, but you can bet you'll never be as successful as you could be without the right A. Anyone want to take a stab at A? Attitude, direct hit. It takes a very powerful attitude to sustain what you've just done and to continue with what you want to do. So what is your beta factor? Are you performing at peak performance? Who do you interact and associate with? And are you a part of that 56%, 15%, or that very small percent of truly successful people in the world today? Baker is not about 56% just getting by. Baker is not about 15% looking for someone else to carry you. It's about being the person who sets the legacy of the future. So I commend you, I thank you, and I thank you for the opportunity to come back home to Baker. President, thank you.